For the most part, most people know who this guy is. But did you know how he was created? I bet you didn't, so let me tell you a story. And it all started with this. So all the big shots at Polarium decided they need to boost sales, so naturally, they decided to release more champions. This time though, they wanted to do something real special, something so good that even those free-to-play guys will open up their wallets and start spending like crazy. And this dawned the beginning of Project Ageless. So all the top scientists and all the creative minds in the world got together and started to construct the most perfect toolkit ever to be seen in Raid Shadow Legends. They took the best kits from other champions and spliced it all together to create one fabulous monster. Or was it? Science is a tricky thing, and not all projects are successful. So they had to go back to the drawing board and they had to figure out what was the problem. Why did this almost perfect creature fail? Meeting after meeting, they just could not figure it out. They just could not figure out what was wrong with the genetic code. Where did they mess up? What do they need to do to fix this? And one day, a special boy appeared and gave them the answer. It was so simple. And this is what he said.
I like turtles. All right, you're...
The boy was a genius, so they celebrated. The missing link was a turtle. So what they did was took their old miscreated creation, spliced in a turtle gene, and boom, there you go. The perfect champion was born. Yup, that's how it happened. True story, man. True story. Hello everybody, Loki Magics, another day, another video, and that was a rather longer intro than usual, but hey, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun making it. I thought it was pretty funny, but hey, that's my opinion, and maybe you guys thought it was funny too, so if you liked it, let me know. But regardless though, let's get into this video, and I do need to tell my boy Shining Gun Sage, thank you so much for letting us use your account once again to take a look at this wonderful champion, and seriously, this champion is great. And I used to think that, you know, just looking at his kit, that do I really want him or not? And I was pretty convinced, right? But after looking at him and having a chance to kind of mess around with him a little bit, reconfirmed for sure, if you get this champion, man, you are one of the lucky ones. So yeah, let's get right into this video and let's talk about him. Alright, so let's get into this video and let's start off with his aesthetics. Now this champion looks great. I really like his color palette. I really like how he has like that little green algae growing off of him a little bit here and there. Very, very nice design. Please, player, do not reskin this champion because I feel like he is definitely one of the top tier champions. And what makes him so good is not only his kit, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of you guys already know what his kit does, and we'll talk about it just real briefly. But this guy provides flexibility. Like, he is so good in so many areas, in so many different ways. I feel like his flexibility is probably what makes this champion stands out far out from other champions, right? And hopefully this video lets you kind of get that feel of his flexibility. So yeah, let's talk about it. Okay, so let's get right into his kit. Now, looking at his A1, I really don't want to spend too much time on his kit because I feel like a lot of people did reviews on his kit already. So we're just going to kind of run through this. But his A1 attacks all enemies, which is nice for an A1, and has decreased speed, which is always good for campaign dungeon clearing, right? Doesn't work on clan boss, unfortunately, but hey, still pretty good A1 for other contents in the game. Now, his A2 attacks all enemy once again, places 50% ally protection buff on all allies except for the champion, and he gets 15% continuous heal, and this also extends the duration of ally buffs. Unfortunately, it does not extend unkillable. I was really hoping it would, but it doesn't extend unkillable and block damage. So when the champion first came out, I was like, please, please, please be like the exception to the rule, but unfortunately, no, it does not. But it still buffs counterattack, so you know, not too bad. But this is a very powerful A2 regardless because of ally protection, and that really helps out with your glass cannons like Cold Hard, Royal Guard, and Skull Crown, right? So very strong A2, and then like we're saying, like the whole theme of this video is pretty much how flexible this champion is. Just gives you that diversity and much more options when it comes to team compositions. So now we go to his A3. This places provoke debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. It's just 1 turn, but at the same time though, I feel like this is a very good secondary provoke for your team composition, because if you have someone like Martyr who has a stronger provoke, right, for 2 turns, And then but sometimes you don't provoke everybody. And this turtle is pretty defensive, so this is like a nice secondary layer, and once again just providing that little bit of extra survivability, flexibility to your team composition. Now this only places 60% increase buff on him and 30% increased speed buff on all allies except for him. So it's like a trade-off. He gets more defense and your teammates get more speed, which could be a little bit tricky for like counter attacks. So if you're using this for clan boss, just make sure you got this kind of like planned out in your team composition, because you don't want to go too fast and lose buffs for no reason. But then again, flexibility, right? You have this right here. You could increase the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, so maybe this is good, right? Maybe you could like boost your speed and boom, you know, it doesn't matter no more, because you know counter attack is, you know, boost up to 4 with lasting gift mastery plus with this ability right here. So you know, this kind of gives you the option to go really fast, right? So that's what I mean. This champion provides so much flexibility, and this passive is insane. At the start each round, places a shield buff on all allies for 2 turns equal to 50% of the champion's max HP. Super useful, but keynote, it's each round, not turn. That just, if it was every turn, it'd just be crazy. So each round. And also has a 75% chance of placing 60% decreased buff, debuff, and 50% decreased attack on the attacker for 1 hit. So that part right there happens every time the champion gets hit. So this is like, that part is continuous, and it's 75% chance. But honestly, you could book this up to 100% chance, right? And it happens a lot. Like it's almost too dependable for a passive, which is not a bad thing, but you know, this thing, it's almost like a guarantee, which is pretty cool. So yes, like I said, this champion is just provides so much flexibility and just opens doors to so many team composition, and this is why I like him. But enough of his kit, let's talk about his masteries. Masteries and artifacts is probably going to be the hardest part of this video, because this champion is so flexible, and I could already see a lot of people saying no, do this, or no, do that, right? Because this champion, it's really depending on what stage you're at in the game. You might be a new player, in-game player, I don't know, and your team composition can be completely different from my friends, right? So it's very hard for me to tell you how you should set up his masteries, but I think this is a pretty good solid foundation when it comes to his masteries. So we're just going to go through it real quick, and I'll just point out some things, right? So accuracy can't hurt at all, because obviously this champion has a lot of debuffs and buffs that he provides, right? Lasting gifts, can't go wrong with that, extending any buffs, and master hexer, can't go wrong with that for extending any debuffs. Now obviously he does provide that shield at the start of each round, so this could help out. And you could go down here, nothing wrong with this. But here's where it could kind of maybe get situational. Let's say you have a team comp where you're going through, I don't know, Dragons 20, but on the second round, your champions are like barely alive, they're gonna die. So maybe this might help you, because since you know Krisk is gonna do his shield at the start of each round, you know, this will increase the value of shield buffs by 10% if the target ally has 40% HP or less, right? So things like that is very situational, and you could tweak it to your needs. So that's what I mean. It's a little bit hard to give you the perfect mastery on this champion. So just, you know, when you're building out his mastery, just really think about what do you need him for and how do you want to use him, right? Because my friend here, Shillingham Sage, uses it for clan boss, so I could see why he went down this tree. You know, crit rate, crit damage, and all of his attacks are just single hits. So War Master is pretty much the only, you know, the mastery to use for this champion. But one could also say, let's go down the defensive tree, because I want him to survive, right? He is my sole provider of survivability, so maybe you want to go down the defensive tree. So his masteries are very situational, so I just kind of wanted to say that. It's really hard to kind of give you the perfect set, but I would agree for this. Like this could be like the overall, you know, hybrid version of his masteries. Like I don't think you could go wrong with this. But if you really want to fine tune your masteries to your specific needs, then yes, his masteries are a little bit hard to pinpoint for everyone. But let's go into his artifacts. So his artifacts are kind of like in the same boat with his masteries. It's very hard for me to tell you what you should pick or how you should do it, but we're just going to talk about his strong points and weak points. So first, we're just going to say he does have lifesteal on this champion because he uses it in clan boss and he doesn't have a healer. So with War Master and lifesteal, you know, this is like good synergy, so that's a good setup for him. And also, if you go to the recommended artifacts, I would kind of agree with this. I mean, you got all the defensive artifacts with some HP and defense percentage gear, right? You don't want to go with nothing flat for, you know, gloves, chests, and boots. You always want to do a percentage, and I would agree with these. You can't really get, this is like a very good overall, right? So the only difference will be if you're going to use them for like campaign stuff, I think this is good, and if you have a healer. But if you don't have a healer, lifesteal is always a safe bet with War Master, right? So we're gonna look at his base stats. His HP is, I'll say, is above average. It's not the lowest base stat, but I've seen higher, so this isn't bad at all. So you could scale really good with his HP. His attack is on the lower side, so honestly, I know his damage is based on defense, but I think, you know, he is a defensive support character-ish, so I don't really expect him to do too much damage, and I definitely would not worry about boosting up his attack. His defense right here is second to Valkyrie, so he has a lot of defense, right? So I would try to pump up as much defense as you can with HP on the champion, and keeping in mind of his speed, because his speed is low, so if you could pump this up more, that would be great. Crit rate, you know, I think a good number to be is like 65% will be a good number for any champions if you could get it, but this will be like your second priority. Crit damage, I wouldn't worry about too much. Now accuracy, I would try to get this as high as possible, especially in the arena. If you're using him in arena, you want to get this accuracy high as possible, right? And your resist, but then again, resist is one of those things depending on the team comp. Like if you know you're going to get hit first, then you probably want to have a lot of resist. But if you know you're going to have a very fast speedy team, then accuracy, and don't worry about resist, right? So everything is really based on your situation, and hope the mastery and artifact part makes sense. If you guys have any questions on that, just, you know, leave a comment or something and I'll get back to you, because that two parts of the video is always really hard to do for everybody. Just really depends where you're at in the game. But enough talk about how great he is. Let's just take a look at him in action, so I could just, you know, close this video out, and hopefully you guys have a better understanding of the champion. Alright, so we're going to let this play in the background, and once again, I'm sorry, had to do it on Bruto. I really just don't like taking chests for my clanmates, so I went with Bruto since we don't hit that too much in our clan. But this clip right here in the background is just pretty much so you guys get an idea like how he functions in clan boss. Now, you know, he has lifesteal on, which is really good because his team comp does not have a healer, and you can see him doing his thing. You can see his Might of Ages passive going off. You can see how he extends all the buffs, counterattack, increase defense, things like that. And I really like this team composition because you pretty much have everything you need. The only thing missing from this team composition, I would say, is like a buff remover, because that increased attack is like really rough after, you know, you start getting to like the 10th round. That this clan boss just starts doing a lot of damage. So the only thing really missing from this is that buff remover, or one could even say, you know, maybe you could add a healer in there. But overall though, this is a good example of building around Krisk, because Krisk is like one of those champions that seriously, if you pull him, you should probably build around him, because he could do a lot of things for you, and you cannot go wrong building around Krisk, right? So if you pull this champion, I think doing team comps like this is a very good idea. It just pretty much has everything, right? You got a buff extender, a debuff extender, you got all the masteries that could do both, and you got counterattack, you got just pretty much everything. So this is a very strong team composition. I really like it, and you can see Krisk doing his thing, helping out. So really like it. Very strong team composition. So we're just going to jump to the end so you can kind of see what kind of damage Krisk would do. So let's check that out right now. Alright, Krisk being the only one alive with his high HP and defensive stats. And let's see how much damage the whole team does. Now this wasn't tuned for Brutal, so I don't expect them to do too much, but let's check it out. And alright, so 27.5 mil, and you can see across the board, I mean, obviously Dracomoph's is going to do the most damage with his poisons and things like that, but yeah. So Krisk doesn't do a lot of damage himself, but he provides that utility, so overall a team could do much more damage, right? So not bad at all, but that's how he pretty much functions in Clan Boss, with that ally protection being a big help. Alright, so we're going to let some arena clips play in the background so that we could get an idea on how he functions in the arena. You can see his passives going off, you can see how his AI works, things like that, right? So we'll have that running in the background while I give my thoughts on Krisk. And pretty much when it comes to arena, I think he is a very good champion, but I wouldn't say like he is like the best overall, right? Because he, like we kept saying in the video, he's very flexible and he lets you do so much more in your team composition. But I guess the best way to say it, he's kind of like the jack of all trades, right? Like he does so much, but he doesn't do one thing super well. So when you're using him in arena, just keep that in mind. Like he can do decreased defense and attack, right? But he has to get hit first, which is not a bad thing, but he does have to get hit first, and you could lose sometimes getting hit first, right? His speed is low, so you're gonna have to put him in there with a team composition that boosts speed, or someone like Arbiter, right? And also he doesn't hit that hard, so you're still gonna need a nuker. But overall though, if you have a speed boost, a nuker, and maybe like a counter person, then Krisk will fit really well because he's like that glue, right? He will do everything else that you need in your team composition. So that's kind of like Krisk's theme, like this guy just does a lot behind the scenes, and he's like the glue of just making everything work in your team composition. So hopefully that makes sense. And yeah, let's just check out a few more clips in the arena so that we get a better understanding, and let's move on to dungeons after that. And I just want to throw this in here, so full disclosure, to be fair, right? You can't show him winning all the time, but see, speed is just one of those things. Like it is so hard to go around speed. Yeah, he has that passive that gives him decreased attack and defense, but like you can see here, sometimes just going first and having more damage output is the best way to go. So just throwing that out there, like no team is invincible. There's always ways to work around teams that beat you, but it's hard to have a one team on auto that does everything, right? Alright, so let's talk about dungeon campaign and wrap this video up because it is a rather long one, so I apologize. There's just so much information to go over. And yeah, so anyways, so Krisk, when it comes to campaign, it's going to be super easy. Faction wars, things like that, he's going to be a hard carry. Like he's going to help you out in everything, right? So there's no problems when it comes to campaign. Definitely easy. I'm pretty sure most people could figure that out. You can see in Spider's 20, he could help out. Now that is a very strong team. There's a lot going on. HP burns, Sir Nicholas with the shield, and you got the provokes from Krisk. A lot of things are going on in that Spider build, but just to show that with Krisk, it just makes it even better. And when it comes to Fire Knight also, one thing to note is that for some reason I don't think his Might of Aegis works when Fire Knight hits him. Like you can see right here, it goes off, but he doesn't get any debuffs on him from it going off. So I don't know if that's a glitch or not, but just something I noticed when I was doing Fire Knight. But overall, once again though, he provides that extra utility when it comes to Fire Knight content, and especially it extends your counterattack, right? And sometimes counterattack falls off, especially when you're doing it on auto. So I feel like having him in there is just an extra blanket of security to make sure all your debuffs, all your buffs are there when you need them. And also he does help you getting there, right? Because sometimes it's hard to bring Cold Heart to the final parts of the boss, especially on 20 on auto. So he does help out. And right here in Ice Golem, his Might of Aegis does work a lot. He gets hit, the passive goes off, and Ice Golem hits pretty hard. So it's really nice to have that passive where he gets decreased defense just by getting hit, and decrease attack, and it all helps out. So overall, when it comes to dungeon content, campaign content, I would say Krisk is just A+ for sure. No problems. He's gonna help you out, but everything does depend on team composition. So you can't do it alone, but he fits really well with others and lets you do so much more and lets you build a great team composition. So yes, if you pull them, build around them. And this video is long, so I do want to do a wrap up, but today I'm just gonna say, hey guys, hope you enjoyed your weekend, and honestly, thank you for watching this video, and you guys take care and be safe.
Perfect.